Hello Summoners, welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is Nathan Ng, and today we'll be talking about how patch 12.10 is going to change the game. League is a constantly evolving game, so adaptability is everything. That goes for every single patch, but it's especially important when you see a patch this big. That totally changes everything about the game. Thankfully, you have us to rely on. With the help of this video, you'll have a better understanding of the shifts that will be happening in the game and instantly be ahead of the rest of the pack. So, before we talk about the effects of the changes, I guess it would make sense to talk about the changes that are actually going to be happening. It's not exactly a hot take to say that there's been just too much damage in League of Legends for quite a while. I guess if I was to pinpoint exactly when it started, I'd say that it was when Runes Reforged was implemented in Preseason 8. Ever since then, it's like any champion with a lead can mindlessly all-in and 100-0 you. This obviously impacted the game a lot. It took away a lot of aspects that were important in the game before. For example, wombo combo type team comps aren't nearly as good as they were in the past. Back then, since damage was lower, you actually got a lot of value out of chaining CCs and overlapping with that big damage from something like Misfortune or Cannon's ultimate. But in League's current state, wombo comboing is completely overkill. Just a single AoE CC buys enough time for the damage dealers to insta-gib 2 or 3 squishy targets. Also, the damage being so high makes not teamfighting at all much more viable strat. Anytime you have a big lead on an assassin, bruiser, or juggernaut, you can very easily just trudge down a side lane and basically one-shot whoever tries to hold you. So, in a word, it made games very mindless. You don't need much teamfighting skills to win 5v5, and oftentimes you don't even need to use macro very much. You can just brute force your way to victory with a big enough lead. Finally, Riot has decided enough is enough. Allowing the games to be in this state for more than 4 years is definitely a little bit of a whoopsie on their end, but hey, better late than never, right? So, what exactly are the changes? Originally, they were going to go for a blanket nerf to champion damage, but instead opted to go for champion durability instead. I'm sure the answer to why is out there, but I can only assume it's because it made things less complicated for balancing the system side of things. The specific changes that we're going to be seeing are as follows. Base health up by 70, health per level up by 14, armor per level up by 1.2, and magic resistance per level up by 0.8. Additionally, champion healing is reduced by 10 to 28%, and champion shielding is reduced by 10%. This is definitely an overall good thing, though I'm a bit concerned with them adding 70 base HP for every single champion. You think they want a % increase rather than a flat amount, since it has a different impact based on what the champion already has. For example, Sona with her base HP of 480 can appreciate 70 extra health a lot more than Garen, who has 620. The same logic applies to HP scaling. But anyways, it's still a really good move in the right direction, and I'm sure that we'll see some fine-tuning in the following patches after the big one. Aside from the champion adjustments, there's also the system adjustments being made to compensate. All systems with healing are being reduced by 10 to 28%, and shielding reduced by 10% as well, mirroring the champion changes. Baseline grievous wounds are being lowered from 40 to 30%, with the enhanced versions going from 60 down to 50%. The percent penetration items are going to be reduced by 5 to 10%. All turrets are being buffed, with their starting attack damage going up by 10%, and their capped out AD being increased by 40%. Lastly, Baron is getting his damage buffed, going from 125 plus 8 per minute up to 150 plus 10 per minute. Whew, that is a lot. Now that we've talked about it all, let's get into the juicy part, what it actually means for the game. With damage being relatively lower, the first and most noticeable thing is that snowballing is going to be a lot less of a thing now. Don't get me wrong, an assassin that gets up 2 levels and 1500 gold is still going to absolutely roll you, and that's expected. Someone with that kind of a lead should absolutely kill you. But what isn't going to happen so much is a lane being completely and utterly decided by a single kill. You won't just be unable to play the game just because you died to a gank top lane and your opponent is up by a single level and an extra longsword. You'll have more comeback potential, and other key skills like wave management and knowing when to reset will be way more impactful and meaningful. I'm not saying those concepts aren't a thing, they definitely are, and we preach about them all the time. I'm just saying that you won't always be able to just hard force with a small lead like you currently can. And if you think you're lacking in those areas, well, now is a better time than ever to head over to ProGuides.com. You don't want to miss out on LP just because you don't have these easily teachable fundamentals that our top tier coaches can pass on to you in as little as 1 session. All it takes is a single hour to instantly level up your gameplay. Anyway, the game being less snowbally isn't only going to be affecting laning phase. It'll also affect the mid and laning portions of the game as well. Again, a huge lead on an assassin means squishies getting pops left and right. But aside from those people that are gonna be Omega fed, things are gonna play out a bit more slowly. Not being able to just brute force everything in sight means macro is gonna be a lot more of an important factor. Also, being a skilled team fighter will mean a lot more now. Previously, we talked about how oftentimes you really just need one good AoE CC and some fed carries to just insta-wipe the enemy team. But after these changes, I think old school wombo comboing should be more of a thing again. There is more value to having CC layered upon CC when everybody isn't just dead in the blink of an eye. So all that being said, I think we can definitely see a lot of value of certain champion picks, like Rakan, Orianna, and Malphite to go way up. And on that note, let's just go ahead and talk about all the champion pool changes that we may see. Before we dive into that though, I just want to also remind you that we're here to help you get through this huge meta shift. You don't have to be overwhelmed by the process of deciding what champion to start playing and then actually learn them. Our coaches are available 24/7 and can literally make you a better player instantly. Anyway, let's get back into what's going to be OP. It's obviously hard to say exactly how strong every single champion is going to be, but we can definitely make some pretty good estimates. The biggest thing is that all champions offer a lot of utility and are going to be a lot better now. In the current state of things, high utility champions are just overshadowed by a huge pool of champions that do a ton of damage. This doesn't just mean tank versus carries, by the way. This could apply to inter-class comparisons. Take Amumu versus Zac for example. When it comes to utility, Amumu wins out by a lot. He has 2 back-to-back stuns and also a gap close, and a massive AoE CC for an ultimate. Zac's CC is pretty mediocre by comparison, but since he does so much damage, he's insanely disruptive, with him being easily able to kill the backline targets all on his own. As a result, Zac is generally just a much more popular and successful champion. On the opposite side of the same coin, you can see a similar trend in the bot lane with supports. For enchanters to be strong, they need to have ridiculous healing and shielding to match the ridiculous damage that they're trying to save their teammates from. So the heal bots like Soraka and Sona have sat around a 54% win rate, while more utility focused picks like Lulu struggle to be above 50% or maybe 51%. I'm really hoping that they take these nerfs even further, pushing down healing and shielding even more and buffing things like Sona's power cord and Soraka's silence. Admittedly, I just hate going against Soraka and Sona. But let's not just look at enchanters. Any engage focused champion is probably going to be a lot better now as well. At first, I was actually thinking the opposite. The way I was looking at it, engage supports are usually thought of as a kill lane champion, meaning that you want to go in and blow somebody up in a single swoop. Since higher durability means that you're less likely to just 100-0 people, I was thinking the likes of Leona and Nautilus would be just getting hard nerfed. But really, I think I had it wrong. More durability means that they can just take longer, more extended trades. It's okay if they can't burst people down instantly if they can get off their CC abilities multiple times in a fight. Higher durability is going to be helping them after the laning phase is over. The biggest issue with tanky engaged supports right now is that they're just way too squishy. Even when you're relatively strong compared to the enemy bot lane, that doesn't really mean much once you get into team fights. Having Solari and Ziggs convergence isn't going to stop a burst mage from melting you in a single combo. So, if you're the type of player that likes to play utility picks to tie the team comp together, then you're up to bat. I'm personally excited to see champions like Rakan and Orianna hopefully come back into the spotlight. I've been playing this game, unfortunately, since Season 1, and I just remember these moments where Orianna would land a 5-man ultimate, followed up by a Malphite ultimate, followed up by a Yasuo ultimate, just to kind of tie everything up together, and it was glorious. Now, I think Malphite just needs to ult and just kill somebody. I'm very excited for these changes. I think another group of champions that will be doing super well are hyper carries. Higher durability means easier, safer laning. You won't just be insta-killed when you make a mistake, and even if you do die early, like we talked about earlier, snowballing isn't as bad. You'll have a much better shot at getting back into the game later. Since front-loaded bursty champions are going to be weaker, obviously the inverse is true. Champions that do well in extended fights are going to be the way to go. There are plenty of champions that fall into that category that are already OP, like Fiora, Riven, and Yorick. So I'm really hoping they get some compensation nerfs ASAP. The last group I think is going to become a lot stronger are Poke and Siege champions. If you're a newer player, you probably don't remember, but there was once a point in time, I think in like Season 4, where full-on poke comps were drafted. You'd have a mid, top, and ADC all geared towards poking the enemy team down, while the jungle and support usually has some disengage. At the moment, it's pretty difficult to pull stuff like that off. If you're a poke champ against somebody with a good all-in, they can usually just farm you. But now whittling people down in laning phase is going to actually be a lot more viable. And once you're out of lane, you shouldn't have to worry about being one-shot by an assassin that's down 2 levels, like you would if you queued up today. There are also these champions that may be a little bit more up in the air. I'm personally hoping that this patch helps bring Lee Sin back. Due to his overwhelming presence in pro play, Lee has been nerfed to the ground hard. Despite his popularity, he's always been statistically pretty bad at solo queue, anywhere outside of the top of the ladder. He's considered a pretty snowbally champion, so at first, I was thinking that he might be a little bit weaker. But then I also thought about the fact that he's really good in extended fights, and later on into the game, he does have a good amount of utility to fall back on. So I'm really hoping that he's able to make a bit of a comeback, because he's really fun to watch. And on that note, before we go, here's our question of the day. What are some of the specific champions that you think will be super OP on this patch? Make sure you let us know in the comments down below. And that about wraps things up for how patch 12.10 will change the game. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you follow and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of our content. And one last thing, don't forget to check out our Discord in the description box below, where we can discuss League further or just hang out and be part of the community. I can't wait to see you guys back in the next video, and as usual, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.